Picture this for a moment. You wake up every morning feeling lighter, not just physically, but mentally and emotionally. There's a sense of clarity in your mind and a peace in your heart that you haven't felt in a long time. Your days are no longer weighed down by the constant worries, frustrations, and invisible burdens that used to hold you back. You walk through life with a quiet confidence, knowing that you've let go of the things that no longer serve you. Sounds like a dream, right? But what if I told you it's not only possible, but that it starts with one simple decision? This is your moment to change. It's not about making loud declarations or radical transformations overnight. No, this is about the quiet but powerful act of letting go, of recognizing that the things dragging you down don't need to define your life. You deserve to feel free, free from the doubts, the toxic relationships, the endless clutter, and the need for approval. The truth is, so much of what we carry with us every day is optional. And that's what makes it so empowering. You have the power to choose what stays and what goes. Think about it. How often do you feel weighed down by invisible pressures, stress, and expectations? You might not even notice it consciously, but those nagging thoughts and lingering emotions are there, quietly influencing how you live your life. Whether it's self-doubt whispering in your ear or the overwhelming fear of failure, these are the things that make life feel heavier than it needs to be. And it's time to start peeling back those layers. In the hustle and bustle of daily life, we often don't realize the extent of what we're holding on to. It's like trying to run a race while carrying a backpack full of bricks. Every step becomes harder than it should be, and eventually you wonder why you're so exhausted. But what if, one by one, you could take out those bricks? Wouldn't the journey become easier? Wouldn't you start to run with more energy, more focus, and more joy? That's what this moment is about. It's about recognizing the bricks in your own life and deciding quietly but firmly that you're done carrying them. It's time to lighten your load, to make space for the things that truly matter, like peace, joy, and the freedom to live life on your own terms. One of the most powerful teachings of Stoicism is the idea that we often suffer more in our minds than in reality. We create stories of fear, self-doubt, and stress that don't need to exist. Marcus Aurelius, one of the greatest Stoic philosophers, once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This wisdom is a reminder that we are not powerless. We may not be able to control everything around us, but we can control how we respond, what we let in, and what we choose to let go of. Letting go isn't about giving up. In fact, it's the opposite. Letting go is about freeing yourself from the chains that have been quietly holding you back. It's about saying, "I no longer need this in my life." Whether it's negative thoughts that play on repeat in your head or toxic people who drain your energy, there comes a time when you realize these things don't deserve to take up space in your life anymore. It's not easy. Letting go requires courage. It requires you to look at your life honestly and ask yourself some tough questions. What am I holding on to that's keeping me from living fully? What's standing in the way of my peace, my joy, my progress? These questions can be uncomfortable, but they are necessary if you want to make real change. And here's the beautiful part. The answers are within you. Deep down, you already know what's holding you back. The challenge is in being brave enough to confront it and then quietly, but powerfully, let it go. The journey to a more peaceful, fulfilled life starts with small steps. It's about making those quiet decisions, deciding that today you're not going to let self-doubt win, that today you're going to set boundaries with people who drain your energy, that today you're going to stop chasing perfection and start embracing progress. These small, quiet shifts in your mindset can lead to massive changes over time. I want you to now picture waking up tomorrow, not feeling the pressure to prove yourself to anyone. Picture yourself going through your day with a clear mind, free from the constant noise of distractions. Picture feeling a deep sense of peace, even when things don't go exactly as planned. This isn't just wishful thinking. It's what happens when you start letting go of the things that weigh you down. It's what happens when you begin to live with intention, guided by what truly matters. There's a certain power in choosing to quietly eliminate what no longer serves you. It's not about making a scene or declaring your decisions to the world. It's about making a promise to yourself, a quiet vow that you will no longer tolerate the things that steal your peace. And in that quiet decision lies immense strength. Life is short. Too short to be spent, tangled in unnecessary complications, too short to carry the weight of regrets, fears, and toxic influences. The time to make a change is now. Not tomorrow, not next week, but now. Each moment you spend holding on to what no longer serves you is a moment lost, a moment that could be filled with something better. You owe it to yourself to live fully, to experience life with a lightness that comes from knowing you've let go of the things that no longer align with who you are and where you're headed. You owe it to yourself to stop settling for a life that feels heavy when there's a world of peace and freedom waiting for you, if only you're willing to let go. So, as you stand at the edge of this journey, ask yourself, am I ready to let go? Am I ready to quietly, but powerfully, eliminate the things that are holding me back? If the answer is yes, then you've already taken the first step. The path ahead is one of simplicity, clarity, and a renewed sense of purpose. It won't always be easy, but it will always be worth it. Because at the end of the day, the greatest gift you can give yourself is the freedom to live life on your terms, free from the things that don't serve you, free from the weight of unnecessary burdens, and free to create a life that brings you peace and fulfillment. Are you ready to begin? Let's take this journey together, one quiet, powerful step at a time. Self-doubt can feel like a constant nagging companion. It shows up at the worst moments, when you're about to start something new, when you're in the middle of a challenge, or even when you're enjoying success. It whispers to you, quietly eroding your confidence, making you question your abilities, your worth, and your potential. But self-doubt, for all its persistence, is not insurmountable. In fact, with the right mindset, you can not only overcome it, but learn to silence it entirely. One of the most powerful philosophies that teaches us how to combat self-doubt is Stoicism. This ancient philosophy, practiced by some of history's greatest minds, offers clear, practical guidance on how to eliminate negative self-talk and build a resilient, confident mindset. By focusing on what is within our control, practicing mindfulness, cultivating self-compassion, and shifting our perspective on challenges, Stoicism gives us the tools to free ourselves from the weight of self-doubt. Stoicism teaches that the root of much of our suffering is not external events themselves, but the way we interpret and react to them. Self-doubt, then, is not something imposed on us by others or the circumstances we find ourselves in. It is a product of our own thinking, of the stories we tell ourselves about who we are and what we're capable of. This is good news because it means that by changing our thoughts, we can change our relationship with self-doubt. At the heart of Stoicism is the idea that we have control over our own minds. As Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic philosopher and Roman emperor, wrote in Meditations, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This simple truth holds the key to eliminating self-doubt. When we recognize that our thoughts are within our control, we can begin to challenge and change the negative self-talk that fuels our doubt. The first step in overcoming self-doubt is to become aware of it. Often, negative thoughts about ourselves run on autopilot, slipping into our minds unnoticed and unchecked. These thoughts might take the form of self-criticism, comparisons to others, or fear of failure. You might think things like, "I'm not good enough," "I always mess things up," or "I'll never succeed." These thoughts can become so ingrained that we start to accept them as facts. But they are not facts, they are beliefs, and beliefs can be changed. Mindfulness is one of the most effective ways to bring these negative thoughts into the light. By practicing mindfulness, we can observe our thoughts without becoming entangled in them. This is crucial because, as Epictetus, another great Stoic philosopher, taught, it is not things that upset us, but our judgments about things. When we catch ourselves engaging in self-doubt, mindfulness allows us to step back and ask, is this thought helping me? Is it true? Most of the time, we'll find that it's neither true nor helpful. It's just a habit of thought, one that we can choose to break. For example, consider a situation where you're about to take on a new challenge, like starting a business, applying for a job, or pursuing a passion project. Self-doubt might creep in, telling you, you're not experienced enough, you're going to fail, or who do you think you are to try this? In that moment, it's easy to believe these thoughts and let them stop you in your tracks. But with mindfulness, you can pause and observe the thought without judgment. You can remind yourself that this is just a thought, not a truth. Then, instead of letting the thought control you, you can choose a different response. You can say, I'm going to try anyway. I'll learn along the way. And even if I fail, I'll grow from the experience. This shift in thinking is incredibly powerful. When we stop identifying with our self-doubt and start seeing it as just another thought, it loses its power over us. We can move forward with courage and clarity, no longer held back by the fear of failure or the belief that we're not good enough. Another essential element of Stoicism that helps in eliminating self-doubt is the practice of self-compassion. Often, we are our own harshest critics. We hold ourselves to impossible standards, and when we inevitably fall short, we beat ourselves up for it. This cycle of self-judgment only fuels self-doubt, making us feel more and more inadequate. But Stoicism reminds us that making mistakes is a natural part of being human. Seneca, a Stoic philosopher and advisor to the Roman Emperor Nero, understood this well. He wrote, "To err is human, but to persist in error is foolish." This is an important distinction. Stoicism doesn't encourage us to ignore our mistakes or pretend they don't matter. Instead, it encourages us to acknowledge them, learn from them, and move on without dwelling on them. The mistake is not the problem, it's how we respond to it that matters. Self-compassion allows us to treat ourselves with the kindness and understanding we would offer to a friend. When we make a mistake or fall short of our expectations, instead of letting self-doubt take over, we can remind ourselves that we are doing our best. We can recognize that growth comes from failure and that every setback is an opportunity to learn and improve. This shift in perspective can be incredibly freeing, as it allows us to move through life with more grace and confidence. It's also important to remember that Stoicism teaches us to focus on what is within our control and to let go of what is not. Self-doubt often arises when we become fixated on things we cannot control, other people's opinions, the outcome of a situation, or external validation. But Stoicism reminds us that these things are outside our sphere of influence. What we can control is our own effort, attitude, and mindset. As Epictetus famously said, "Make the best use of what is in your power and take the rest as it happens." This is a liberating mindset. When we stop worrying about things that are out of our control, we free ourselves from much of the anxiety and doubt that hold us back. We can focus on what really matters, our own actions, and how we respond to the challenges in front of us. For instance, if you're preparing for a job interview, you can't control the outcome. You can't control whether the interviewer will like you or whether you'll get the job, but you can control how well you prepare, how you present yourself, and how you handle the situation. By focusing on what's within your control, you can approach the interview with confidence, knowing that you've done your best. And if things don't go your way, you can accept the outcome without letting it affect your sense of self-worth. Stoicism also encourages us to embrace challenges as opportunities for growth. Self-doubt often stems from a fear of failure, but Stoicism teaches us that failure is not something to be feared. Instead, it is a natural part of life and a necessary step on the path to success. The Stoics believed that adversity is what strengthens us, much like how a muscle grows stronger through resistance. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." This means that the very challenges we face are what allow us to grow. Instead of avoiding difficulties or doubting ourselves in the face of them, we can see them as opportunities to become stronger, wiser, and more resilient. Every time we overcome a challenge, we prove to ourselves that we are capable, and this builds our confidence over time. Gratitude is another powerful Stoic practice that can help eliminate self-doubt. When we focus on what we lack or what we think we're not good enough at, we fuel feelings of inadequacy. But when we practice gratitude, we shift our focus to what we already have and what we've already accomplished. This doesn't mean ignoring areas where we can improve, but it does mean recognizing our strengths and appreciating the progress we've made. Gratitude can be as simple as taking a few moments each day to reflect on what you're thankful for, whether it's your health, your relationships, your skills, or the opportunities in front of you. Over time, this practice helps to quiet the negative self-talk that comes from focusing on what's missing or what's wrong. It reminds you that you already have value and that you are enough as you are. Another key aspect of Stoicism is the acceptance of impermanence. Everything in life is temporary, from our successes to our failures, from our joys to our doubts. This understanding can bring great relief when dealing with self-doubt. The Stoics teach us to accept that all things, including our doubts and insecurities, will pass. Nothing is permanent, and that includes the voice of self-doubt. When you find yourself in the grip of doubt, remember that it's just a passing emotion. It doesn't define you, and it won't last forever. This realization can help you move through moments of uncertainty with greater ease, knowing that the doubt you feel today will not be with you tomorrow. By accepting the impermanence of all things, you can let go of the fear and anxiety that self-doubt brings. Finally, Stoicism teaches us the importance of perseverance. Life will always present us with challenges, and there will be times when self-doubt creeps in, no matter how much progress we've made. But the Stoics believed that true strength comes from continuing to move forward, even in the face of doubt or difficulty. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, "When you arise in the morning, think of what a precious privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to enjoy, to love." Each day is an opportunity to grow, to learn, and to push through whatever doubts or fears are holding you back. Perseverance is not about never feeling doubt. It's about continuing to take action despite it. In the end, the journey to eliminating self-doubt is not about achieving perfection or never experiencing moments of insecurity. It's about learning to recognize self-doubt for what it is, a fleeting thought, a distortion of reality, and choosing not to let it control you. Through mindfulness, self-compassion, focusing on what's within your control, practicing gratitude, embracing challenges, accepting impermanence, and persevering through difficulties, you can quiet the voice of self-doubt and build a life of confidence and inner strength. The wisdom of Stoicism offers timeless tools for overcoming self-doubt and living a more fulfilled, resilient life. By applying these principles, you can free yourself from the negative self-talk that holds you back and step into a future where you trust yourself, believe in your abilities, and face each challenge with courage and grace. Self-doubt, once addressed, opens up a clearer path for personal growth, but there's another obstacle that can quietly undermine your peace and progress: toxic relationships. These are the connections in your life that drain your energy, cloud your judgment, and leave you feeling worse about yourself than before. Toxic people can be disguised as friends, family, or colleagues, but the effects are unmistakable. They plant seeds of negativity, doubt, and chaos, sabotaging your ability to find peace and clarity. What if you could finally recognize these harmful influences and take the necessary steps to free yourself from them? Relationships are powerful, but not all are positive. While some connections uplift and inspire you, others can weigh you down with manipulation, criticism, and emotional exhaustion. These toxic relationships often develop slowly, making it hard to pinpoint exactly when things went wrong. You might tell yourself that you're overreacting or that things will get better with time, but the reality is, toxic relationships rarely improve without significant change. In fact, the longer you stay, the more deeply they impact your mental and emotional well-being. The first step in freeing yourself from toxic relationships is recognizing their impact. Toxic individuals often bring chaos into your life, turning small problems into major crises. They thrive on drama and manipulation, often leaving you feeling confused, exhausted, and emotionally drained. Their negativity seeps into every interaction, turning your once peaceful world into a battlefield of stress and anxiety. Even if they don't always directly criticize you, their behavior and attitudes foster an environment where you're constantly on edge, always wondering when the next emotional blow will land. Toxic people also have a unique ability to make you doubt yourself. Whether it's through subtle manipulation or overt criticism, they create a cloud of confusion around your sense of self-worth. Over time, you may begin to question your own instincts and decisions, unsure of what's real and what's just their distorted version of reality. Stoicism teaches us the importance of knowing ourselves, of maintaining a clear and steady mind that isn't easily swayed by external chaos. Toxic relationships, however, make this clarity difficult to achieve as they continually disrupt your emotional equilibrium. A common trait of toxic individuals is their tendency to shift blame. In a healthy relationship, people take responsibility for their actions and work to resolve conflicts constructively. Toxic people, on the other hand, refuse to accept accountability. They'll twist situations to make you feel guilty, as though their problems and outbursts are your fault. This constant blame shifting not only damages your self-esteem, but also keeps you trapped in a cycle of trying to fix things that aren't your responsibility to fix. One of the most insidious aspects of toxic relationships is the way they distort your perception of what's normal. Over time, you may begin to accept their behavior as just the way things are, especially if this person is someone close to you, like a family member or longtime friend. You may rationalize their actions, telling yourself that everyone has bad days or that their behavior is just a reflection of their own struggles. While it's true that people go through tough times, a toxic person consistently makes you feel worse, not better, after interacting with them. They drain your energy rather than fill your cup, and over time, this emotional depletion takes a toll on your mental health. Stoicism teaches us to guard our inner peace fiercely, and that means being mindful of the people we allow into our lives. Toxic individuals often disrupt this peace with their unpredictable behavior, leaving you feeling like you're walking on eggshells. You may never know when they'll lash out or start an argument, and this constant state of tension can wear you down over time. Marcus Aurelius wrote about the importance of maintaining a tranquil mind, free from the disturbances of others. He believed that we have the power to choose how we respond to external events, and that we must not allow others to throw us off balance. The challenge, of course, is that toxic people can be skilled at disguising their behavior. They may offer moments of kindness or apology after a particularly difficult encounter, giving you hope that things will change. These brief moments of calm can keep you hooked, making it harder to see the larger pattern of negativity and manipulation that defines the relationship. Stoicism, however, encourages us to focus on patterns rather than isolated incidents. A single act of kindness doesn't erase a long history of harmful behavior. We must look at the relationship as a whole and ask ourselves whether it truly supports our well-being. A key element in removing toxic relationships from your life is setting boundaries. Boundaries are an essential part of protecting your emotional and mental health. They define what you're willing to tolerate and what you won't. Toxic people often push against these boundaries, testing them to see how much they can get away with. They may react with anger, guilt-tripping, or manipulation when you try to enforce limits. But maintaining your boundaries is crucial, no matter how uncomfortable their reaction may be. Without boundaries, toxic individuals will continue to invade your personal space, dictating how you feel and how you live your life. One of the most empowering realizations in Stoicism is that you are not responsible for fixing or saving others. Toxic individuals often rely on your sense of duty or compassion to keep you entangled in their web. They may present themselves as victims of circumstance, making you feel like it's your job to support them, even at the cost of your own happiness. But Stoicism teaches us that we are each responsible for our own lives and well-being. You cannot control or change another person's behavior. You can only control how you respond to it. And sometimes the best response is to step away. Letting go of toxic relationships can be difficult, especially when there are deep emotional ties involved. You may feel guilt, sadness, or even fear about what will happen if you distance yourself from these people. But it's important to remember that your peace and well-being are worth protecting. Toxic relationships don't just affect you in the moment. They leave lasting scars that can impact your self-esteem, your ability to trust, and your overall happiness. Removing these influences from your life isn't just an act of self-preservation, it's an act of self-love. When you finally create distance from toxic people, you'll notice an immediate shift in your energy and emotional state. Without their constant negativity weighing you down, you'll feel lighter, more peaceful, and more in control of your life. This newfound clarity will allow you to focus on relationships that uplift and inspire you, connections that bring out the best in you rather than the worst. Stoicism teaches that we should surround ourselves with people who support our growth and encourage our inner peace. By removing toxic influences, you create space for these positive, life-affirming relationships to flourish. As you move forward, it's important to stay vigilant and mindful of the people you allow into your life. Toxic relationships can be subtle and difficult to recognize at first, but once you've experienced the freedom that comes from removing these influences, you'll become more attuned to the signs. Trust your instincts. If someone consistently leaves you feeling drained, anxious, or unworthy, it's a sign that they may not be a healthy influence in your life. Stoicism reminds us that we are the architects of our own peace. By taking deliberate steps to remove toxic relationships, you regain control over your emotional landscape. You free yourself from the chaos and manipulation that once clouded your mind, allowing you to focus on what truly matters: your well-being, your growth, and your peace of mind. In the end, removing toxic relationships is about reclaiming your power. It's about recognizing that you deserve to live a life free from the negativity and drama that others bring into your world. Stoicism offers the wisdom and tools to help you make these difficult but necessary decisions, empowering you to protect your peace and build a life filled with positive, meaningful connections. After taking steps to remove toxic relationships and protect your peace, you'll likely feel lighter, more in control of your mental and emotional space. But peace can still be elusive when your physical environment is cluttered with unnecessary possessions. Often, the weight of material things can be just as draining as toxic relationships, slowly filling up our minds with distractions. Stoicism offers a different path, one of simplicity, where true freedom and clarity come from letting go of excess and embracing what truly matters. Have you ever felt that the more you own, the more your life feels cluttered, both physically and mentally? What if the key to a clearer mind and a more focused life lies in removing the things that don't serve you? Material possessions often promise happiness, security, and status, but the truth is, they can easily become burdens that cloud our judgment and weigh down our spirits. The more we acquire, the more we have to manage. Whether it's organizing, maintaining, or simply worrying about the things we own, these possessions take up valuable mental and emotional space. It's a cycle that can feel never-ending, accumulating more in the hopes that it will fill a void, only to find that the void remains, unchanged by external goods. Stoicism teaches us that happiness and peace come from within, not from the things we own. Seneca wisely said, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, that is poor." This craving for more creates a sense of dissatisfaction and restlessness, even in the midst of abundance. It's not about how much we own, but about how much we desire. When we constantly seek fulfillment through material things, we lose sight of the inner contentment that comes from simplicity and self-sufficiency. In modern society, we're bombarded with the message that more is better. Advertisements, social media, and even the culture around us push us to believe that accumulating possessions will lead to a happier, more successful life. But the Stoics saw things differently. They understood that the pursuit of material goods can easily become a trap, distracting us from what truly matters: our relationships, our growth, and our ability to find peace within ourselves. The more we focus on external possessions, the further we drift from the values that actually bring us joy and fulfillment. I want you to now think of walking into your home and feeling a sense of peace rather than being overwhelmed by the clutter of things you don't truly need. By eliminating unnecessary possessions, you create physical space that reflects the mental clarity you're striving for. Stoicism encourages us to live simply, not as an act of deprivation, but as a way to strip away the distractions that prevent us from living fully and intentionally. When you have fewer things to manage, you free up your time, energy, and attention for the pursuits that bring you closer to your true self. The process of simplifying your material possessions starts with a mindset shift. You begin to see things for what they are: tools that serve a purpose, not symbols of your worth or success. Stoicism teaches us to detach from the need to accumulate and to focus instead on what is necessary and meaningful. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Remember that very little is needed to make a happy life." When you let go of the belief that you need more to be happy, you start to find contentment in the simplicity of having enough. Consider the mental and emotional weight of keeping up with consumer trends. Each new item you acquire brings with it a set of responsibilities: maintaining, cleaning, and storing it. Even more subtly, these possessions can create a psychological burden where your focus shifts from living in the moment to managing what you own. When you're constantly thinking about the next thing you need or believe you need, it becomes harder to appreciate what you already have. This mindset of wanting more robs you of the peace that comes from gratitude and contentment. When you practice gratitude for the things you already possess, you begin to see that you have enough. Gratitude shifts your focus from lack to abundance, reminding you that happiness doesn't come from having more things, but from appreciating what you already have. The Stoics believed that the secret to a fulfilling life was not in the accumulation of wealth or possessions, but in the cultivation of inner peace and wisdom. By letting go of unnecessary possessions, you can direct your attention toward the things that truly matter: your personal growth, relationships, and living in accordance with your values. It's important to recognize that simplifying doesn't mean getting rid of everything. Instead, it's about being intentional with what you choose to keep. Ask yourself, does this item serve a purpose, or is it just taking up space? Does it add value to my life, or is it something I've held on to out of habit or societal pressure? Letting go of material possessions can be difficult, especially if we've been taught to equate ownership with success. But each time you release something that no longer serves you, you create more space for clarity and peace. The mental clarity that comes from simplifying your possessions is just as valuable as the physical space you create. Without the clutter of unnecessary things, your mind becomes less distracted, allowing you to focus on more meaningful aspects of life. Stoicism teaches us that we are not defined by what we own, but by how we live. By embracing simplicity, you free yourself from the constant pull of consumerism and the pressure to keep up with societal expectations. This journey toward simplicity also extends to how we view success. In a materialistic world, success is often measured by the size of your home, the brand of your car, or the latest gadgets you own. But Stoicism challenges this notion, reminding us that true success is about living in alignment with your values, cultivating inner peace, and making meaningful contributions to the world around you. When you stop tying your self-worth to material possessions, you become free to define success on your own terms, rather than through the lens of consumer culture. One of the most empowering aspects of simplifying your possessions is the sense of liberation that comes with it. The more you let go, the more you realize how little you actually need to live a fulfilling life. This doesn't mean you shouldn't enjoy the things you have. It simply means recognizing that they don't define you. The Stoics believed that the fewer attachments we have to material goods, the less we are affected by the external changes in life. Whether we lose something, have to part with it, or never acquire it in the first place, our happiness remains intact because it's rooted in something deeper. Marcus Aurelius often reflected on the impermanence of life and how fleeting material possessions truly are. He understood that attaching too much importance to things outside our control, like wealth, possessions, or status, only sets us up for disappointment. Everything we own is temporary. It can be lost, broken, or taken away at any moment. When we place too much value on these things, we're more vulnerable to the emotional turbulence that comes with their loss. But when we practice detachment, we can enjoy what we have without fearing its impermanence. Detachment doesn't mean indifference. It means acknowledging that material things are part of life, but they are not the source of happiness. By letting go of the need to constantly accumulate, you create space for experiences, growth, and connections that offer far more lasting fulfillment than any possession ever could. In fact, when you simplify your life and let go of the excess, you often find that you have more time and energy for the things that truly matter, whether it's nurturing relationships, pursuing a passion, or simply enjoying the present moment. The Stoics also believed in the importance of resilience, both mental and emotional. When you let go of your attachment to material possessions, you build a stronger foundation of resilience. You understand that your worth is not tied to what you own, but to how you respond to life's challenges. This mindset makes it easier to navigate adversity because you're not clinging to external things for your sense of security. Whether you face financial setbacks, unexpected changes, or personal losses, you remain grounded in the knowledge that true peace comes from within. Another benefit of embracing simplicity is the sense of freedom it brings. When you're no longer tied to the constant pursuit of more, you free up your time, energy, and mental space to focus on what brings you joy and fulfillment. You become more present in your daily life, more intentional with your actions, and more aligned with your values. Stoicism teaches that the fewer distractions we have, the easier it is to live in accordance with reason and virtue. By simplifying your possessions, you eliminate unnecessary distractions and create space for deeper reflection and purpose. The journey towards simplicity is not about deprivation. It's about empowerment. It's about reclaiming control over your life and choosing to focus on what truly matters, rather than getting caught up in the superficial demands of consumerism. When you live simply, you live more intentionally. You make choices based on your values, rather than on societal pressure or the fleeting desire for more. Ultimately, letting go of unnecessary material possessions is about finding clarity and peace. It's about recognizing that happiness doesn't come from what you own, but from how you live. By embracing Stoic simplicity, you create a life that is not only less cluttered, but also more meaningful. You free yourself from the distractions of excess and discover the joy that comes from living with intention, gratitude, and inner peace. As you simplify your material possessions and find clarity in your physical environment, there's another, more subtle clutter that often lingers in our minds: our attachment to outcomes. It's a weight we carry, even when everything around us seems orderly. We plan, we hope, we strive for certain results, and when life doesn't go as expected, we feel disappointment, frustration, and sometimes even despair. What if the key to true peace was not in controlling every outcome, but in learning to let go of that need altogether? Can you imagine how freeing it would be to release yourself from the pressure of always having to make things turn out a certain way? Attachment to outcomes is one of the biggest sources of stress and anxiety in our lives. We set goals, make plans, and naturally want things to go our way. Whether it's in our careers, relationships, or personal ambitions, we often measure success by the results we achieve. But what happens when things don't go as planned? How do we handle failure, unexpected setbacks, or situations that are completely out of our control? Stoicism offers a powerful solution. Focus on what you can control and let go of the rest. The Stoics believed that we are only responsible for our actions, not the outcomes. This distinction is crucial because it allows us to maintain our inner peace regardless of how external circumstances unfold. Epictetus, one of the great Stoic philosophers, famously said, "Some things are within our power, and some things are not." This simple truth is at the heart of Stoicism. Our thoughts, decisions, and actions are within our control, but the results, what others think, how they respond, or what life throws our way, are not. When we attach our happiness or sense of self-worth to specific outcomes, we set ourselves up for disappointment. Life is unpredictable, and even our best efforts don't always lead to the results we hope for. By focusing on the process, on doing our best with what's within our control, we can cultivate a mindset of resilience and peace. The outcome, whether favorable or not, becomes less important because we know we have done all we can. This shift in perspective frees us from the emotional roller coaster of success and failure. Letting go of attachment to outcomes doesn't mean that we stop caring about what happens in our lives. On the contrary, it allows us to care more deeply about the things that truly matter, our integrity, our effort, and our character, without being consumed by the need for everything to turn out perfectly. It's about finding balance. You can still have goals, dreams, and aspirations, but you learn to approach them with a sense of detachment from the results. This detachment doesn't lead to indifference, but to a deeper sense of peace and focus. Think about how much time and energy we spend worrying about things that are out of our control. We stress over how others will perceive us, whether we'll get that promotion, or if our relationships will turn out the way we want. This constant preoccupation with outcomes drains our mental and emotional energy. When you let go of the need to control these outcomes, you regain that energy. You can focus on what's in front of you, on giving your best effort, without being weighed down by the fear of failure or the need for validation. I want you to think of approaching your goals with the mindset that the journey itself is what matters most. The Stoics believed that true success lies in how we live each moment, not in whether we achieve a specific result. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher, wrote extensively about the importance of focusing on the present. He urged himself to live in accordance with virtue, to act with wisdom, courage, and kindness, and to let go of concern for the outcomes. He knew that outcomes are often influenced by forces beyond our control, but our actions are entirely within our power. When you adopt this mindset, you begin to experience a sense of freedom. You are no longer a prisoner to outcomes that may or may not come to pass. Instead, you focus on being the best version of yourself in each moment. You learn to trust that, no matter the result, you are capable of handling whatever comes your way. This trust in yourself is deeply empowering. It allows you to face challenges and setbacks with grace, knowing that your worth is not determined by the outcome, but by your effort and integrity. One of the most common areas where attachment to outcomes causes stress is in relationships. We often have expectations for how others should behave or how our relationships should unfold. When those expectations aren't met, we feel disappointment, frustration, or even resentment. But Stoicism teaches us that we cannot control other people, only our responses to them. By letting go of the need to control how others act or feel, we free ourselves from the emotional turbulence that comes with unmet expectations. This doesn't mean we stop caring about the people in our lives. On the contrary, it allows us to engage with them more fully, without the pressure of trying to mold them to fit our desires. We can appreciate them for who they are, rather than who we want them to be. And if a relationship doesn't work out as we hoped, we can accept it with grace, knowing that we did our best and that some things are simply beyond our control. In the professional world, attachment to outcomes can be a major source of stress. We often tie our sense of success to external achievements, whether it's a promotion, a project's success, or recognition from our peers. But the Stoics remind us that these outcomes are not entirely within our control. We can put in the work, but the final result is influenced by countless factors, many of which are outside of our hands. By focusing on doing our best and letting go of the need for a specific outcome, we can find peace in the process itself. This doesn't mean that we should lower our standards or stop striving for excellence. Rather, it means that we approach our work with a mindset of dedication to the task, not to the result. When we let go of the need for a particular outcome, we often perform better because we're not weighed down by the fear of failure. We're free to give our best effort without being paralyzed by worry about how things will turn out. Letting go of attachment to outcomes also helps us deal with failure in a healthier way. When we're too focused on outcomes, failure can feel devastating, as though it's a reflection of our worth. But Stoicism teaches us that failure is simply feedback, an opportunity to learn and grow. When we detach from the outcome, we can view failure not as a personal defeat, but as part of the natural process of growth. This perspective allows us to move forward with resilience and a deeper understanding of ourselves. Life is full of uncertainty, and trying to control everything only leads to frustration and anxiety. The Stoics believed that by accepting uncertainty, we can find peace. When we let go of the need to control every outcome, we learn to flow with life rather than fight against it. We become more adaptable, more open to change, and more resilient in the face of challenges. This adaptability is a key component of inner peace. There's also a deeper level of freedom that comes with releasing attachment to outcomes, the freedom to live authentically. When we're constantly chasing results, we often compromise our values or authenticity to achieve them. We might act in ways that aren't true to ourselves in order to get ahead, gain approval, or meet expectations. But when we let go of the need for specific outcomes, we're free to live in alignment with our values, regardless of the results. This is the essence of Stoic virtue, living a life of integrity, wisdom, and courage, without being swayed by the ups and downs of external circumstances. As you begin to let go of attachment to outcomes, you'll notice a shift in how you approach challenges. Rather than fearing uncertainty or obsessing over results, you'll focus on what's within your control, your effort, your mindset, and your actions. This shift brings a sense of calm and confidence, allowing you to navigate life's unpredictability with grace. You become less reactive to external events and more centered in your own values and principles. The beauty of letting go of outcomes is that it allows you to be fully present in the moment. Instead of constantly worrying about the future or ruminating on the past, you can engage with life as it unfolds. This presence not only brings peace, but also enhances your ability to make wise decisions. When you're not distracted by worries about how things will turn out, you can approach each situation with clarity and focus. Letting go of attachment to outcomes doesn't happen overnight. It's a practice that requires patience, self-awareness, and trust in the process. But as you cultivate this mindset, you'll find that life becomes less stressful, more peaceful, and more fulfilling. You'll discover a deeper sense of freedom, not because everything goes your way, but because you've learned to find peace within yourself, regardless of the outcome. In the end, the Stoic philosophy teaches us that true happiness and peace come not from controlling everything around us, but from mastering our own minds. By focusing on what we can control, our actions, thoughts, and values, and letting go of the rest, we free ourselves from the burden of attachment to outcomes. We learn to live with greater resilience, peace, and authenticity, trusting that no matter what happens, we have the inner strength to handle it. As you begin to release the need to control outcomes and embrace the freedom that comes with it, a new challenge emerges. What are you doing with the time that is now yours? The time we gain from letting go of attachments to outcomes can easily slip away if we're not mindful of how we spend it. Often, it's the distractions, the small, seemingly harmless activities that slowly consume our days. Imagine how different life could feel if you reclaimed that time and used it purposefully. What if, instead of drifting through moments of distraction, you focused on actions that truly mattered? Time is one of our most valuable resources, yet it's also the one we often squander the most. We let it slip away, lost in mindless activities, social media scrolling, or constantly checking our phones. We tell ourselves we're just taking a break, but those moments add up, and before we know it, hours are gone. Hours that could have been used to move closer to our goals, improve ourselves, or simply engage in more meaningful experiences. The Stoics believed in the importance of living with intention, making the most of each moment, because time, once gone, can never be reclaimed. One of the core teachings of Stoicism is the value of purposeful action. Marcus Aurelius often reflected on the brevity of life and the importance of using time wisely. In Meditations, he wrote, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think." This isn't meant to be morbid. It's a reminder that life is fleeting, and because of that, we should make every moment count. Time-wasting activities rob us of the opportunity to live fully and purposefully. By becoming more mindful of how we spend our time, we can reclaim those lost hours and direct them toward actions that align with our values and goals. Distractions are everywhere, and they've become easier to access than ever before. With smartphones, streaming services, and the constant pull of the internet, it's no wonder that many of us feel like there's never enough time in the day. But the truth is, we often have more time than we think. It's just being consumed by distractions that offer little value. The Stoics would advise us to cut through these distractions and focus on what really matters. They understood that our attention is precious, and wasting it on trivial pursuits is a form of neglecting our own potential. When you take a closer look at the activities that fill your day, how many of them are truly aligned with your long-term goals? How much of your time is spent on things that bring real fulfillment or growth? It's easy to fall into the trap of filling time with things that feel urgent but aren't important, responding to every notification, checking emails constantly, or getting lost in the endless stream of content online. These activities give the illusion of productivity, but in reality, they often prevent us from focusing on deeper, more meaningful work. Purposeful action is about aligning your daily activities with your values and goals. It's about making deliberate choices with how you spend your time, rather than being pulled along by whatever distraction presents itself. This doesn't mean you need to be productive every second of the day or never take time to relax. Instead, it's about being mindful of when relaxation turns into mindless distraction and when productivity turns into busy work. By prioritizing purposeful action, you take control of your time and direct it toward the things that matter most to you. One of the most insidious ways we waste time is through procrastination. We put off important tasks, telling ourselves we'll get to them later, but that later often never comes. Instead, we fill the space with easy, low-effort activities that feel satisfying in the moment, but leave us with a sense of regret afterward. Procrastination is often fueled by fear of failure, fear of discomfort, or even fear of success. The Stoics believed in facing these fears head-on, recognizing that avoiding discomfort only prolongs it. By taking purposeful action, even when it's uncomfortable, we build the discipline needed to overcome procrastination and make meaningful progress. It's also important to recognize that not all time-wasting activities are inherently bad. Sometimes we need to unwind, relax, and recharge. The problem arises when these activities become a way to avoid deeper engagement with life. Stoicism encourages balance, taking time to rest and enjoy life, but also being mindful of when rest turns into avoidance. If you find yourself constantly escaping into distractions, it's worth asking why. What are you avoiding? What meaningful action could you be taking instead? One powerful way to combat time-wasting activities is through the practice of mindfulness. By becoming more aware of how you spend each moment, you can catch yourself before you fall into the trap of distraction. When you notice yourself reaching for your phone out of habit or mindlessly scrolling through social media, pause and ask yourself, is this the best use of my time right now? Is this aligned with my goals and values? Often, just bringing awareness to the moment is enough to break the cycle of distraction and redirect your attention to something more meaningful. The Stoics also believed in the importance of focusing on what you can control. When it comes to time management, this means recognizing that while you can't control external events, you can control how you respond to them. You can't always avoid interruptions or distractions, but you can choose how you deal with them. By setting clear priorities and staying committed to purposeful action, you develop the discipline needed to stay on track, even when life gets busy or chaotic. It's helpful to think about time as a resource that must be invested wisely. Just as you wouldn't carelessly throw away money, you shouldn't carelessly throw away time. Every moment you spend is an investment in your future. Are you investing in activities that will bring you closer to your goals, improve your well-being, or deepen your relationships? Or are you spending your time on things that offer little return? By viewing time in this way, you become more intentional with how you spend it, recognizing that each moment is an opportunity to create something meaningful. Another important aspect of prioritizing purposeful action is learning to say no to distractions. We live in a world that constantly demands our attention, whether it's through work obligations, social engagements, or digital notifications. It's easy to feel overwhelmed by these demands, and before long, you may find that your day is filled with things that aren't aligned with your priorities. Learning to say no is an essential skill for reclaiming your time. It's not about being selfish or avoiding responsibilities. It's about protecting your time and energy for the things that truly matter. When you say no to distractions, you create space for purposeful action. You give yourself the opportunity to focus on what's important, whether it's a personal project, spending quality time with loved ones, or simply engaging in activities that bring you joy and fulfillment. The Stoics believed that living a good life meant focusing on what was essential and letting go of what was not. By cutting out distractions, you can live more intentionally, making choices that reflect your values and goals. The beauty of prioritizing purposeful action is that it leads to a deeper sense of satisfaction and fulfillment. When you're no longer wasting time on trivial activities, you create room for the things that truly bring meaning to your life. Whether it's pursuing a passion, building meaningful relationships, or working toward a personal goal, purposeful action gives you a sense of direction and accomplishment. You no longer feel like you're drifting through life. Instead, you're actively shaping your path and making the most of each moment. Stoicism teaches that time is a gift, one that should not be taken for granted. We don't know how much time we have, but we do know that every moment is an opportunity to live with intention. By letting go of distractions and focusing on purposeful action, you create a life that is aligned with your values, filled with meaningful experiences, and driven by a sense of purpose. Each day becomes an opportunity to grow, to learn, and to make a positive impact on the world around you. In the end, the way you spend your time reflects the way you live your life. By prioritizing purposeful action, you take control of your time and direct it toward the things that truly matter. You break free from the cycle of distractions and wasted hours, reclaiming your days for growth, fulfillment, and meaningful engagement with the world. This is the essence of Stoicism, living with intention, making the most of each moment, and using your time wisely to create a life of purpose and peace. As you begin to prioritize purposeful action over distractions, freeing up time to focus on what truly matters, there's another layer of mental clutter that often goes unnoticed: resentment and grudges. These emotional weights may not seem as obvious as time-wasting activities, but they can quietly undermine your peace, disrupt your focus, and drain your energy. Picture how different your life would feel if you could let go of the resentment that has built up over time. What if, instead of carrying the burden of past wrongs, you chose to forgive and move on? How much lighter would you feel if you released those lingering grudges. Resentment is a heavy emotion, often born from hurt, disappointment, or betrayal. It lingers in our minds, reminding us of past wrongs and keeping us stuck in a cycle of anger and frustration. While holding on to resentment may feel justified, after all, we were wronged, Stoicism teaches that clinging to these negative emotions does nothing but harm us. The Stoics believed that by holding on to grudges, we allow the past to control our present and future. Instead of focusing on what we can control, our reactions, our mindset, and our growth, we become trapped in a mental prison, endlessly replaying past events that cannot be changed. Forgiveness, in contrast, is a powerful act of self-liberation. It's not about condoning the wrongs done to us, nor is it about forgetting what happened. Rather, it's about choosing to release the emotional hold that resentment has over us. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor, wrote in his Meditations, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." In other words, the greatest strength lies not in retaliation or holding on to anger, but in rising above it. When you forgive, you reclaim your emotional freedom. You take control of your mind and choose peace over bitterness. Resentment often festers because we feel that forgiveness would mean letting the other person off the hook or minimizing the hurt they caused. But Stoicism reminds us that forgiveness is not about the other person. It's about us. It's about our own well-being and peace of mind. When we hold on to resentment, we continue to let the actions of others dictate our emotions. We give them power over us, allowing the past to shape our present. But when we forgive, we take back that power. We acknowledge the hurt, learn from it, and then let it go. Grudges, like resentment, are emotional chains that keep us stuck. They often stem from unresolved conflicts or a sense of injustice. We replay the events in our minds, imagining how things could have gone differently or how we might have responded better. But this constant replaying only deepens our attachment to the negative emotions surrounding the event. The Stoics teach us to accept things as they are, not as we wish they could have been. By accepting the past as unchangeable, we free ourselves from the need to hold grudges. We recognize that holding on to anger or resentment does nothing to change what happened. It only prolongs our own suffering. One of the most important lessons from Stoicism is the idea that we cannot control the actions of others, only our reactions. When someone wrongs us, it's natural to feel hurt or angry. But the Stoics remind us that these emotions, if left unchecked, can turn into long-lasting bitterness. Instead of letting the actions of others dictate our emotions, we have the power to choose how we respond. Forgiveness is an act of reclaiming that power. It's a conscious decision to let go of the emotional burden that resentment creates. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting or ignoring the pain. It's about acknowledging the hurt, understanding that we can't change the past, and then choosing to move forward without carrying the weight of anger. This process can take time, especially if the wound is deep, but the rewards are immense. When we forgive, we release ourselves from the constant replay of negative emotions. We create space for healing, for growth, and for peace. The energy that was once spent on resentment can now be directed toward more meaningful pursuits. Resentment can also cloud our judgment and prevent us from seeing things clearly. When we hold on to a grudge, we often view the world through a lens of bitterness and anger. This can distort our perception of events and people, leading us to react in ways that aren't aligned with our true values. Stoicism teaches us to approach life with reason and clarity. By letting go of resentment, we clear away the emotional fog that clouds our thinking and allows us to respond to situations with wisdom and composure. There's a sense of freedom that comes with forgiving. When you choose to let go of a grudge, you're no longer tied to the actions of others. You stop letting the past define your present. This doesn't mean that you allow people to continue hurting you or that you don't set boundaries. It simply means that you no longer carry the emotional baggage of their actions. You've learned the lesson, you've set your boundaries, and now you're free to move forward without the weight of bitterness holding you back. Stoicism also emphasizes the importance of empathy and understanding. When someone wrongs us, it's easy to see them as the villain, focusing only on their actions and the pain they caused. But the Stoics encourage us to take a step back and consider the bigger picture. Often, people hurt others out of their own pain, insecurity, or ignorance. This doesn't excuse their actions, but it can help us understand them better. By practicing empathy, we soften our hearts and make space for forgiveness. We see the other person not as an enemy, but as someone who, like us, is flawed and imperfect. This perspective doesn't mean that we should tolerate harmful behavior or allow others to take advantage of us. Boundaries are essential for protecting our well-being, but it does mean that we can approach forgiveness from a place of understanding rather than anger. When we forgive with empathy, we recognize that everyone makes mistakes, and we allow ourselves to move on without the heavy burden of resentment. Letting go of resentment also allows us to reclaim our emotional energy. Holding on to grudges requires effort, constant mental and emotional effort. We replay the wrongs in our minds. We think about what we wish we had said or done, and we imagine how we might get even. All of this drains our energy and distracts us from more important things in life. By forgiving, we free up that energy and redirect it toward positive actions, toward growth, learning, and living in alignment with our values. Forgiveness, as the Stoics understood it, is not a one-time event, but a practice. It's something we must continually work on, especially when new challenges arise. People will continue to hurt us, intentionally or unintentionally, and life will present us with opportunities to either hold on to resentment or choose forgiveness. The more we practice letting go of grudges, the easier it becomes. Over time, we develop a resilience that allows us to move through life with greater ease and peace, no longer weighed down by the actions of others. The Stoics remind us that forgiveness is not just an act of kindness toward others, it's an act of kindness toward ourselves. By forgiving, we free ourselves from the prison of resentment. We stop allowing the past to dictate our present and future. We create space for healing, for growth, and for joy. This doesn't mean that we ignore the lessons learned from past hurts. It means that we take those lessons with us without carrying the emotional weight of anger or bitterness. In the end, practicing forgiveness is about reclaiming our peace. It's about choosing to live free from the emotional chains of resentment and grudges. The Stoics teach us that life is too short to be spent holding on to anger. By letting go, we open ourselves to a future filled with possibility, growth, and inner peace. And in doing so, we become stronger, more resilient, and more capable of facing whatever challenges life brings our way. As you let go of resentment and grudges, clearing emotional space and reclaiming your peace, a new, subtler obstacle often emerges: fear of failure. This fear, deeply rooted in our minds, holds us back from taking risks, trying new things, or stepping outside of our comfort zones. It whispers doubts in our ears, telling us to avoid challenges, to play it safe, and to stay where it's comfortable. But what if, instead of running from failure, you learned to embrace it? What if, instead of seeing failure as something to be feared, you began to view it as an opportunity for growth and transformation? How would your life change if you saw every challenge not as a threat, but as a chance to become stronger? The fear of failure is a powerful force. It keeps us from pursuing our dreams, from taking on new challenges, and from pushing beyond our limits. This fear can be paralyzing, making us feel like it's safer to do nothing than to risk the possibility of failing. But Stoicism offers a different perspective. The Stoics believed that failure is not something to be avoided at all costs. Rather, it is an inevitable part of life and a critical component of personal growth. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." This quote captures the essence of Stoic philosophy. What we fear most, the challenges and failures, are not obstacles, but opportunities to learn and grow. When we avoid failure, we deny ourselves the chance to improve. Fear of failure often stems from a desire for perfection, but perfection is an illusion. No one achieves success without encountering setbacks along the way. The Stoics understood that it is through failure that we learn resilience, adaptability, and strength. By facing challenges head-on, even when there's a risk of failing, we open ourselves up to growth and transformation. It's through adversity that we discover our true capabilities. In modern life, we're often conditioned to see failure as a sign of weakness or inadequacy. Social media and societal pressures tend to glorify success while hiding the inevitable failures that come along the way. This creates an unrealistic expectation that we should always be winning, always achieving, without ever stumbling. But Stoicism teaches us to embrace the full spectrum of life's experiences, including the difficult and uncomfortable ones. Failure is not something to hide from. It is a teacher, a guide, pointing us toward areas where we can grow and improve. The fear of failure can lead to a mindset of avoidance, where we steer clear of anything that feels risky or uncertain. But by doing so, we limit ourselves. We close off opportunities for growth, for new experiences, and for discovering our true potential. The Stoics encourage us to step into the unknown, to face challenges with courage, and to understand that failure is not the end of the road. It's a step on the path to success. Each failure brings with it valuable lessons that help shape our character and build our resilience. Have you ever imagined what your life would look like if you weren't afraid of failure? How many more chances would you take? How many more risks would you embrace? The fear of failure often prevents us from realizing just how capable we are. By shifting our mindset and viewing challenges as opportunities, we allow ourselves to step into our full potential. The Stoics believed that life is a constant process of learning and evolving, and that failure is an integral part of that journey. One of the most powerful tools Stoicism offers in overcoming the fear of failure is the practice of premeditatio malorum, or the premeditation of evils. This practice involves imagining the worst-case scenario, facing it mentally, and accepting it. By confronting our fears in advance, we take away their power. We realize that even if the worst happens, we will still be able to handle it. This mental preparation helps to desensitize us to the fear of failure, allowing us to approach challenges with greater confidence and clarity. When you adopt this Stoic practice, you begin to see that failure is not as frightening as it seems. Often, the anticipation of failure is far worse than the actual experience. By visualizing the potential outcomes and accepting them, you free yourself from the anxiety that comes with uncertainty. You realize that no matter what happens, you have the strength and resilience to move forward. Another key aspect of overcoming the fear of failure is learning to detach from the outcome. Stoicism teaches that we should focus on what we can control, our actions, our effort, and our attitude, while letting go of the need to control the outcome. When we attach our sense of self-worth to a specific result, failure can feel devastating. But when we shift our focus to the process rather than the outcome, failure loses its sting. We come to understand that success is not defined by whether or not we achieve a particular goal, but by the effort we put into pursuing it. This mindset shift allows us to approach challenges with a sense of curiosity and openness rather than fear. We stop seeing failure as a reflection of our worth and start seeing it as a natural part of the learning process. Every setback becomes an opportunity to gain insight, adjust our approach, and try again. The Stoics believed that life's difficulties are opportunities to practice virtue, to develop patience, perseverance, and wisdom. By embracing failure, we give ourselves the chance to cultivate these qualities and become better versions of ourselves. The fear of failure is often rooted in a fear of judgment, what others will think of us if we fail. But Stoicism reminds us that the opinions of others are outside of our control. What truly matters is how we view ourselves and how we respond to challenges. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "It never ceases to amaze me. We all love ourselves more than other people, but care more about their opinion than our own." This highlights the irony of fearing failure due to external judgment. In reality, the only opinion that should matter is our own. Are we living in alignment with our values? Are we doing our best, regardless of the outcome? When we stop worrying about what others think, we free ourselves to take bold action. We stop playing small to avoid criticism or judgment and start pursuing what truly matters to us. Failure, in this context, becomes less about proving ourselves to others and more about testing our limits, learning from our mistakes, and growing in the process. The Stoics teach us to cultivate self-awareness and inner strength, allowing us to face challenges without being swayed by the opinions of others. Another critical element of overcoming the fear of failure is learning to redefine success. In a world that often equates success with external achievements, wealth, status, recognition, Stoicism offers a different definition. Success, according to the Stoics, is not about achieving a particular outcome, but about living in accordance with virtue. It's about showing up with courage, integrity, and perseverance, regardless of the external results. When we adopt this Stoic view of success, failure loses its power over us because we understand that true success lies in how we live, not in whether we win or lose. This perspective helps us approach challenges with a greater sense of purpose and fulfillment. Instead of fearing failure, we embrace it as part of the journey toward becoming the best version of ourselves. We stop measuring our worth by external achievements and start focusing on the growth that comes from each experience, whether it's a success or a setback. This mindset shift allows us to move through life with greater ease and confidence, knowing that we are always learning and evolving, no matter the outcome. Fear of failure can also prevent us from taking the necessary risks to pursue our dreams. We may hesitate to start a new project, change careers, or follow a passion because we're afraid of what might happen if we don't succeed. But the Stoics encourage us to take those risks, not in reckless abandon, but with thoughtful courage. They remind us that the only real failure is in not trying at all. By taking action, even when there's a risk of failure, we give ourselves the chance to grow, to learn, and to experience life fully. Failure is not the opposite of success. It is a part of success. Every great achievement has been built on a foundation of failures, setbacks, and challenges. The Stoics understood this and embraced failure as a necessary part of the process. They knew that it is through overcoming obstacles that we develop resilience, strength, and wisdom. By embracing failure, we open ourselves up to the full range of human experience, including the lessons that come with adversity. In the end, the fear of failure is not something to be eliminated, but something to be understood and embraced. Failure is an inevitable part of life, and by accepting it as a natural and necessary part of growth, we free ourselves from its paralyzing grip. Stoicism teaches us to face challenges with courage, to learn from our mistakes, and to view every setback as an opportunity for growth. When we let go of the fear of failure, we unlock our potential and open ourselves up to a life of purpose, resilience, and fulfillment. As you move forward, remember that failure is not something to be feared, it is something to be embraced. Every challenge, every setback, every mistake is an opportunity to learn, to grow, and to become stronger. By adopting a Stoic mindset, you can face failure with courage and resilience, knowing that it is not a reflection of your worth, but a step on the path to becoming the best version of yourself. As you learn to embrace failure and see it as a stepping stone to growth, there's another challenge lurking beneath the surface: seeking approval from others. It's a subtle, often unnoticed behavior, but one that can have a profound impact on our choices, our self-worth, and even our happiness. Imagine how liberating it would be to stop constantly looking for validation from those around you. What if you could trust your own judgment, make decisions confidently, and live authentically without the need for approval from anyone? How would your life change if you stopped chasing external validation and found your confidence within? The need for approval is a deeply ingrained human tendency. From a young age, we are taught to seek validation from parents, teachers, and peers. As we grow, this need often expands into adulthood, where we look to our friends, colleagues, or society to tell us whether we are doing things right, whether we are good enough, and whether we are living up to expectations. While this desire for approval may seem harmless, it can easily become a trap, one that keeps us from living in alignment with our true selves. Stoicism teaches that true confidence comes from within, not from the opinions of others. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "It never ceases to amaze me. We all love ourselves more than other people, but care more about their opinion than our own." This quote highlights the paradox of approval seeking. We inherently know our own value and should be our own source of validation, yet we so often hand over this power to others, letting their opinions shape how we see ourselves. The Stoics believed that this need for external validation weakens us, making us dependent on others for our sense of self-worth. To find true confidence, we must look inward and trust our own judgment. Seeking approval is exhausting because it pulls us in different directions, depending on whose opinion we are trying to satisfy. It's impossible to please everyone, yet when we seek approval, we try to mold ourselves into what we think others want us to be. This constant shifting erodes our sense of identity, leaving us feeling unsure of who we really are or what we truly want. Stoicism encourages us to break free from this cycle by focusing on what is within our control, our actions, our intentions, and our values, rather than on how others perceive us. When we seek approval, we give away our power. We let others determine our worth, our success, and even our happiness. The Stoics believed that true freedom comes from within, from the ability to act according to our own principles without being swayed by external opinions. Epictetus, another great Stoic philosopher, taught that we should focus on living virtuously and in alignment with our own values, rather than chasing the approval of others. He believed that if we live with integrity, external validation becomes irrelevant because we are confident in our own judgment and actions. The need for approval often stems from a fear of rejection or criticism. We fear that if we don't meet the expectations of others, we will be judged, ridiculed, or left out. This fear can be paralyzing, keeping us from expressing our true thoughts or taking bold actions. But Stoicism teaches us that the opinions of others are outside of our control. We cannot control how people perceive us or what they think of our decisions. What we can control is how we respond to these opinions and whether we let them affect our sense of self-worth. Picture yourself making decisions without worrying about what others will think. how much more authentically would you live? How many more risks would you take if you weren't held back by the fear of disapproval? When we let go of the need for constant approval, we free ourselves to pursue what truly matters to us. We stop living according to other people's expectations and start living in alignment with our own values and desires. This is where true confidence comes from, not from external validation, but from knowing that we are living authentically and making choices that reflect who we really are. One of the challenges of overcoming approval seeking is learning to trust our own judgment. When we've spent years looking to others for validation, it can feel uncomfortable or even scary to rely solely on ourselves. But trusting our own judgment is a skill that can be developed over time. The more we practice making decisions based on our own values and priorities, the more confident we become in our ability to navigate life without the need for external approval. Stoicism teaches that we each have the wisdom within us to make good decisions, and that by aligning our actions with reason and virtue, we can trust ourselves fully. Seeking approval also distracts us from living with purpose. When we are constantly focused on what others think, we lose sight of our own goals and aspirations. We start making choices that are designed to win approval rather than choices that reflect what we truly want. This creates a disconnect between who we are and how we live. Stoicism encourages us to live intentionally, to make choices that are rooted in our own values rather than in the expectations of others. By doing so, we find a sense of fulfillment that external validation can never provide. Another consequence of approval seeking is that it leads to constant self-doubt. When we base our self-worth on the opinions of others, we are always at the mercy of their approval. If they approve, we feel good about ourselves. If they don't, we question our worth. This cycle of self-doubt can erode our confidence over time, making us feel insecure and unsure of ourselves. Stoicism offers a way out of this cycle by reminding us that we are the only ones responsible for how we view ourselves. We have the power to define our own worth, regardless of what others think. One of the most liberating aspects of finding confidence in your own judgment is that it allows you to take ownership of your life. When you stop seeking approval from others, you become fully responsible for your decisions and actions. This may feel daunting at first, but it is also incredibly empowering. You no longer have to wait for others to validate your choices. You can trust yourself to make decisions that are right for you. This sense of ownership brings a deep sense of confidence because you know that you are in control of your own life. Approval seeking can also prevent us from taking risks or pursuing our dreams. We might hesitate to follow a passion or pursue a new opportunity because we're afraid of what others might think. But Stoicism teaches us to prioritize what is within our control, our effort, our commitment, and our dedication to living virtuously. By focusing on these internal factors, we can push past the fear of disapproval and take bold action. When we trust our own judgment, we give ourselves permission to follow our own path, regardless of whether others approve. Overcoming the need for approval is a process, and it requires self-awareness and patience. It begins with recognizing when we are seeking validation from others and asking ourselves why. Are we afraid of rejection? Are we looking for reassurance? Once we understand the root of our approval-seeking behavior, we can start to shift our focus inward. Stoicism teaches that by aligning our actions with reason and virtue, we can trust ourselves fully and live with confidence, regardless of what others think. As you move forward on this journey, remember that confidence is not about being perfect or always making the right decision. It's about trusting yourself to navigate life's challenges with integrity and courage. The opinions of others will always be there, but they don't have to dictate your actions or your sense of self-worth. When you find confidence in your own judgment, you become free to live authentically, to take risks, and to pursue the life you truly want. Stoicism reminds us that true freedom comes from within, and that by trusting ourselves, we can break free from the constant need for approval and live a life of purpose and fulfillment. As you journey through life, it's easy to let negativity, fear, and distractions weigh you down, but Stoicism offers a path to true freedom and inner peace. By quietly eliminating negative self-talk, toxic relationships, unnecessary possessions, attachment to outcomes, and time-wasting activities, you clear the clutter from your mind and heart. You let go of resentment and grudges, embrace failure as a stepping stone to growth, and stop seeking approval from others, finding confidence in your own judgment instead. Each of these changes is a step toward living with intention, clarity, and resilience. The wisdom of Stoicism teaches that we can't control everything in life, but we can control how we respond to it. The moment you release what doesn't serve you, you make space for what does: peace, purpose, and personal strength. You become the architect of a life that's guided by reason and virtue, unshaken by the chaos around you. Now, I want to hear from you. What's one thing you're ready to quietly eliminate from your life? Leave a comment below, and let's support each other on this journey toward inner peace. And if you found value in this video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more Stoic wisdom to help you build a resilient mindset. Your next step toward freedom and peace begins today. Are you ready to take it?